Hey, what's going on? Update time. I don't. I just was. I completely go off the top of my head, and it just occurred to me that I never question who I'm talking to, or the fact that I'm sitting here in this room alone talking to a camera, because I don't know. I have this. It has to do with the way that I'm looking at the world and how I'm seeing things, which is I just understand that I'm connected to everything, to everyone. So I know I'm talking to someone. Um, I'm gonna ramble a little bit today. There'll be some music in here, but it is the 28th of April, and it is a tumultuous time. There's just no way for me to deny it, or to get around it, or to ignore it as a black American. I don't live in Baltimore, but can I feel? Yeah, I mean, I really can. It's palpable. So it's on my mind, and I'll say something, but I'll start with just, a bit of personal ramblings, because I have stuff that I can show. I was at the record store, Almost Music today, where I had performed for Record Store Day, and a local artist had done a series of art print posters, for Record Store Day and for the performance at the store rather. And so I got my copy because it lists all the performers. And let's see, I forget. I think it's Sarah Rowe. I think. Don't quote me. That's okay. I'm gonna take my iTunes off because my computer is just running poorly. Anyway, I picked that up, and I did do some trading. I built up a bit of credit there, and indeed, we may be going to cash here on the next few things just out of necessity, but I did get a couple of things with the last of my trade uh, value. But as I told you the other day, I did a photo shoot for this artist, Vera Mercer, and she got in touch with me and asked me to come and sit again. Um, the first sit was for some portraits, and she gave me some prints, which was very kind of her, which I have right here. But the second sitting I did with her yesterday was for still lifes, and as she explained, a still life is much different from a portrait in that whoever is in the picture with the objects is not the idea. Her challenge is to not make the person more important than the objects, to make the person part of the still life. So I sat for that yesterday, which is very interesting, different than sitting for portraits. But she gave me some prints. Some of these turned out really well. I'm showing you my two favorites. I intend to give at least one of these to a family member, and she only signed the two that I like the best. She did sign these for me, the two favorites, but very kind of her. We took a series of pictures. Some she asked if I would smile so that my faulty teeth showed. She printed one of those out, but she said that after, looking at them, it's like, those aren't. It's not to get a sweet picture. It's just, to get a portrait of the person. But she said the ones with the teeth is like, yeah, that's not. So all these actually are pretty decent, as I'm showing you. Here's one. She caught this. I like that. A couple more. Here's one where I'm showing my teeth. She said, let me see. Actually, as a result of that, she had a dentist friend of hers over for dinner the other night, and she said, she was showing him the pictures, and he said that the work to get it done properly with implants and everything because of the bone loss and the gum problem would be cost me around $20,000. And her thought was, well, you got 4,000, do one at a time. It's like, geez, what money is to different people, With that in mind, I did go to my second appointment today at Creighton University, and unfortunately, what was discovered is that I knew I had high blood pressure, but it was high and too high for them to do anything, and they recommended I get a medical consult before they do anything. One thing I did realize just now is that I do pretty good with salt, but I just made the mistake of buying a tin of peanuts, but I got salted, not thinking, you know what I'm saying? So I know that hasn't helped in... but generally, I do try to avoid things that create blood pressure issues. Anyway, I am going to consult with another doctor. Obviously, I'm going to need to do something about the blood pressure, but I'm going to go elsewhere. I have several recommendations. Yeah, I'm sort of doing a Dear Diary here in front of the camera. I probably will post this. It's like, this is really, what this stuff is for, and what Facebook and social media is for is, if we want to bare our souls and talk about our lives, we get to, and why the fuck not, I mean, that's what we're doing by, that's what we do with celebrities. We pay attention to them, we're just as important. I'm just as important, so I'm just babbling, So it was nice. I asked her if she thought if she would use any of the pictures, Vera Mercer. I asked her if she thought she'd be using any of the pictures in a book, and she didn't give me a definite answer, but it seems real possible that, I could end up in a book, her next book. So, almost music. I got the last of what I had trade value for, and I got a couple things that I needed to round out some holes in my collection. That's one of the things that is one of the attributes of collecting that is always keeps you going is, even though I have all these records, there's all these gaps in my collection, things that I used to have and sold, some records that I have never had but fill gaps. Excuse me. So today with the trade, I filled some gaps, and then I got some things that I was wanting. Here's a gap filler. Return to Forever, Hymn to the Seventh Galaxy. I have had it on CD since it was released on CD. I don't know that I ever personally owned a copy of this on vinyl. I know my brother did. So, when this came out, as I've said before, I was heavily into Mahavishnu, John McLaughlin already, Fusion. So I was really up for this. I liked it a lot. But I will again say the way that it hit me, the quality, like this cover even, was more, I use the word cartoony because it's like there's this youthful marketing aspect, I suppose, that I was, subconsciously seeing and relating to cartoon. Oh, they're trying to, get young people to listen to this music. This is a wonderful album. And Bill Connors, I had to just make sure, because I I thought so. Bill Connors is still the guitarist on here as opposed to Al Di Meola. I like Al, but I like Bill Connors real well too. Here's an album that I don't know what happened to my copy. I know I had this. I don't know what happened to it. I don't remember selling this, but I may have sold King Crimson. But Islands, King Crimson Islands, I must have sold it or something, you know. But got a replacement copy. This is a King Crimson album where he's got strings. It's very sparse, quiet. Not one that I've ever really really bonded with. So haven't played this yet. I just got this today. Okay. And I never had this one. I had the first album, but this is the second Osibisa album, Wo Ya Ya. Cover art by Roger Dean, the Yes artist. The first two Osibisa albums are excellent. I played this already today. Yeah, this is great. Osibisa. Yeah, that lisp is bad, I know, but what can I say? Okay, and so then the last two things I got, real happy to add these to the collection. This one, I didn't even notice it was at the under the counter, but thankfully I had enough, so I grabbed it. Gong live at Sheffield, 1974. This is an unofficial release, but it's a good recording, and I've had it on CD. I have it on CD for a while, but man, to get it on vinyl, gatefold, nice, on the Mantra label. This was actually a pleasant surprise. I almost, like I said, I was at the front counter down below, you know, as a collectible item, you know, had a bit of a price on it, but like I said, I had enough. And the other thing that I got that he just got in, it just came in from UPS. I waited. He said, I think something in here. The Helden is in here, so I got one of the Heldens from Record Store Day. Helden live in Paris '75. Played part of this already, and it's like primitively recorded, but beautiful performances captured. Beautiful vinyl. Very nice, very nice. Again, thinking just about, as I share this stuff with you, my mind does not stray too far from the reality of my situation and the situation of what's going on, you know. And indeed, if this is just a very temporary, which it is anyway, but if this is a very temporary pleasure to own this, indeed, I'm sharing it with you, that I have the pleasure of owning this, playing it, showing it to you, Helden. That's the pleasure of collecting and having things, you know, we indulge ourselves and enjoy them, but sharing it also, you know. I do recognize the value in sharing about these records. Many people say that they learn about music they wouldn't know about otherwise. So there's a value in this, you know. Just always musing about things. Musing about things. I had some credit down at Jesse's Hip Stop, and I'd had it for a while because the last few times I was there, I couldn't find anything that I really liked. So this last time I was down there, I said, okay, I'm determined to find something, and there was. To find was this Joe Henderson album, Live at the Village Vanguard Volume 2, The State of the Tenor. This is a fairly, he blows on this, you know, but it's not fiery, but it is, you know, he plays the saxophone on here and takes us through some of what he knows on it. So this is a nice one, Blue Note, 80s Blue Note issue. one that I was able to get for cheap for $4 from him was Mobo, the first one by Kazumi Watanabe. I have some other Watanabe albums. Primarily, I'd gotten them because he plays with Sakamoto and part of my Sakamoto collection. This is good though. I enjoyed this, even with a bit of the dated kind of, some of it's really like in your face, I want to dazzle you sort of thing, but good ideas and good playing. Kazumi Watanabe, Mobo. And I picked up a single, and I think I can see why this was sold. I have one other Uncle Acid single, but I picked this one up. Runaway Girls, Uncle Acid. The B-side is called Devil's Work, acoustic. And this, next comment about this ties in with my thinking about current events. Purple Vinyl. The words of the B-side are kind of disturbing, even if they're meant to be a joke and it's nothing new. But it's just so blatant. I'm about the devil's work, and the devil's work is good, and it's like, I'm not a religious person. I'm a spiritual person. And just the blatant, evil quality of the atmosphere on this frickin' planet, whether or not there is an entity called Satan or not, evil, which we attribute to this word devil and Satan, is definitely, holding sway. Probably nothing new. Of course, when you talk about history and you go back in history, there have been much worse times. I know all that, but I wasn't alive then. So again, it's like, I do understand that what's happening is what is happening, and it's man's nature. So this is reality, and perhaps commenting is just, again, a waste of breath. But call me crazy, but it's part of what just keeps naturally coming out of me, besides getting sidetracked with my favorite distractions, if you want to reduce it to that, because right now it is that, almost music. I try not to be preoccupied, but I'm just so aware that something is up. And here's what my concern is, and I'll say it here, and I just, whatever anyone wants to say that says, oh my goodness, you're just being paranoid, that's not possibly true. I'm sorry, it's not going to help. But I do see an emerging police state where it appears that martial law is already in action, but will be enacted to the point that larger and larger groups of citizens we've already lost our rights. We're not living under the Constitution. The U.S. is being run like a corporation, an oligarchy, a fascist one. But the idea of this creeping emergence of control being the issue rather than solutions or care being part of the conversation. There's no part of the conversation that talks about caring about trying to really create a healing atmosphere in this country. Everything is still the bottom line, and the bottom line is business and who is winning and who is in charge of the debt, all the debt. It's to their advantage to have all this chaos. And whether or not it's a big plot or not, this aspect of it and how that is part of the picture and why things are just allowed to just carry on is just, I'm just commenting on it. That I just see that that's part of the equation, that there's really no profit in peace. And the different parts of the brain and the heart that are activated by what we do, and the things that become dormant by what we do, primarily what our focus is. And when our focus is on what it's been since before industrialization, which is profit, wealth, gain, comfort, you just rationalize, that, you don't even see, again, this is conjecture, as I'm trying to see it as though I were someone with wealth, and in a position of benefiting from keeping things going the way they are. And we all do benefit, because you don't just want things to just completely fall apart. But you hear me. It's just the idea that, the continued focus of just carrying on business as usual, as opposed to, a change in the tone coming from the media and from those in control of the media. And it's, it's like the whole issue is about controlling people, not finding a way to improve the situation so that things are a little more equitable. It's, and once again, the ugly head of privilege and a fall guy, us versus them, and who's on the front line of that again. People, we're not faultless, but it's a setup, it's not, it's just not a fair, it's never been fair, nothing is fair, but it's never been a fair, equal situation in America, much less hardly anywhere else. I'm just thinking out loud. I'm just going to keep going until I'm done. Because people do try to do the right thing, People of all colors, races, and backgrounds try to do the right thing, and it doesn't seem to... It amounts to something, but it's like... It just seems like the prevalent wind of what's going on in this world is not benevolent. It's freaking evil, It is. It's negative, That was, a completely triggered by talking about the B-side of this Uncle Acid, Devil's Work, but everything runs together to me, And the A-side is pretty cool, a little bit Black Sabbathy. I like the B-side is acoustic. It's... I don't like it. It's, it's really kind of almost like a... it's almost like a mantra, like trying to raise some kind of energy. And, just things I'm aware of, and maybe just thoughts. Maybe it's nothing. So, still haven't heard anything about my album today, and hoping to hear something any day now. It's like it's time to hear about a delivery being on the way of the next Dereck vinyl. But with that in mind, I still have records for sale, and if you haven't got it yet, I've still got Flyover for sale. I'm still only selling this for $15 a copy plus postage. It's splatter vinyl, marble vinyl. Last year I was really into Sid Arthur and pulled this and played this again recently. Still like this band a lot, Sid Arthur. They are even mentioned in, they're actually from Canterbury, so they are part of the, it's part of the Canterbury story. In reality, they are. Just right quick, a couple things else that are sitting down here. I'll just finish out with some music. Bob Harris is a musician who played with Frank Zappa for a while. This doesn't sound like Frank Zappa, but I bring it up as a reference. This is called The Great Nostalgia. It came out in the 80s. Some really gorgeous harmonies on here. Some songs are almost like a Billy Joel, but then there's these other things that are just like these really complex harmonies and just beautiful. Interesting record I've had for a long time. I believe this is John Hassel's very first solo album, Vernal Equinox, on Lovely Music. A bit of a collector's item, but also an excellent album before he had started to really get into the heavy use of electronics with his trumpet. So this is really a lot with his breath and just the acoustics of the rooms and the way it's recorded. This is really excellent you could call it ambient jazz, vernal equinox, John Hassel. So I'll just wrap up with saying once again that it's just a very interesting time right now, and I'm always wishing to hear about things settling down, uh, energy-wise, but that just is not what's on the menu right now. But I put it out there with partially with the idea that, you know, what you put out, everything reverberates, you know, everything that happens consciously and unconsciously, you know, there's, you know, it's sending and receiving, you know, energy. And so it seems like it's trying to have part of the message at least be consciously wanting to be healing or something good, wanting something good.